I'm David, and this is a short presentation about a new trip which Jaggi Globe are adding to their Himalaya Karakoram program for 2024. We're calling it Karakoram Climber because it climbs two different peaks in different areas. And I was lucky enough during the previous summer, 2023, to visit both these mountains and do a detailed reconnaissance in between work and other climbing expeditions. The first peak, Shatung, is just over 5,000 meters and it is in the Diosai Plains to the south of Skardu. So this is Sadpara Lake, just above Skardu in the background under the clouds. It's possible to drive to over 4,000 meters onto this large plateau, and Shatung Peak is the highest peak on the plateau. The plateau is a national park, said to be the second highest high-altitude plateau in the world, and it's a national park to preserve the habitat of the Himalayan brown bear. Quite unlike the terrain in other parts of the Karakoram, it's much more open and green and grassy, many flowers, pleasant landscape to walk through. It's a short hike. We go up here, we do some acclimatizing, and then it's a one-day walk to the base camp by this lake at the foot of the peak. And I was lucky enough while pitching my tent there this summer to look over my shoulder, and it just so happened that three of the Himalayan brown bears were running by. I can't guarantee that we'll see them next year, but it does show there are some there. This view, maybe an hour's walk out of camp. I just went for a hike to get a look at the mountain before the ascent to see what I could see of the route. We actually come up a mixture of snow and ice and rocky slopes, slightly out of shot down here to join the ridge here. And then the route goes to the summit up this ridge, and the true summit is a little further back. Starting quite early, 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning. First section is on fairly hard snow. Sun comes up, we can just make out base camp down here. Then there's a section of loose rocks and scree. We've driven, the cars can get as far as here, and then it's a 4 or 5 hour walk to the base campsite by the lake. As we get higher up, everything opens out. This a good view of Nanga Parbat in the distance. Still on the rocky terrain. And then moving up the final bit, a bit icy. And depending on snow conditions, we may have to put a little fixed rope on the final section to the summit. Sharif, our local guide, came with me on both these trips, and hopefully he will be working with me again in the summer when I return to these mountains. So we spend a little over a week on the Diosai Plains south of Skardu, and then we drive 5 or 6 hours further north, other side of Skardu. So we come down to the city, night in a hotel, hot shower, meal, and then the next day drive to the village of Arandu and attempt this peak, Bargain Cho. Base camp is a 2-day hike from the village. So again, we can achieve this in around a week. Leaving the village, looking back, we've got the vegetation of Arandu. We did this, a very small reconnaissance trip, myself, Sharif, and 2 porters. The first day's walk takes us to the edge of the glacier, or perhaps slightly further up. And then the second day, we walk up through these trees and bushes to get onto slightly more rocky terrain. And then the high camp from where we're going to attempt the summit is located about here. And the route follows the obvious. This is a 4 summit, 5,170 meters. We need to ascend this, drop slightly on the other side, and then on up to the main summit. Slightly different view of the same thing. Our first camp will probably be by the glacier here. We then cross the river in the morning, work our way up through the trees and bushes, quite a few animals grazing here and herder settlements. So we join here and then move on to the upper camp about here. There are faint trails, but this area isn't visited by many climbers or trekkers. We're not going to meet anyone else here. And sometimes the route finding through the bushes can be quite interesting. Plenty of vegetation underfoot and many alpine flowers. This is the location of the high camp, around 4,700, 4,800 meters, depending where available water is. And we start to see good views down the Chogolungma Glacier and the peak of Spantic, which is one of the highest in the area. Pre-dawn start. This is the fourth summit, Senshu. We've climbed up over the top of this and dropped down. Looking to the west, we start to get sunrise over Spantic. And then the route to the summit of Barganchu, not particularly steep, some fairly level sections. The challenge obviously just being what snow conditions are like in any given year. We had a perfectly clear day, and this is the view looking south. Nanga Parbat, again, the most prominent peak on the horizon. And a really excellent view of Spantic, showing the trail to base camp along the Chogolungma Glacier. Sharif and I on the summit. Took us 8 hours from high camp to the summit. And a picture with both of us on top. So a really interesting trip, packing a lot into 16 days, 2 different peaks, different areas, different landscapes, all possible in 16 days and in the summer. So if you'd like to join me on this trip in the coming summer, get in touch with the Jagged Globe office. If you've any specific questions, they'll put you in touch with me and hopefully I can answer them. Thanks for watching.